Hello, you beautiful people. Another episode of UncleTalk, and today we're going to talk about flipped classroom. Stay tuned. We're going to start our discussion very soon. Hello, everyone, again. So, back to Rohan and I. Hello, Rohan.
Hello, Uncle. Nice to be back here. Thanks for having me.
Well done, well done. Very good, very good. So, do you know what we're going to talk about it today?
Yes. I hear we're talking about this concept of the flipped classroom, which is a kind of alternative education methodology. Sorry, would love to hear more about it from you.
Great. You know what? First time I hear the term, very first time, the term flipped, it was like kind of many other meaning came to my mind. But then when I figured out what they mean by the meaning of flipping the classroom, that means flipping the conduct of the performance of the classroom from the physical location and bring it back, and then ring the bell, and the concept really formed. But it's to me, it's like really something excited, something very beautiful, and I think is structural for future of education and classroom. I think that's why we choose this topic to go through it. So let us start conversation about our today topic.
Nice. Thanks. That's great. That's a great, nice, like kind of introduction into it. We've kind of talked about it before in brief in passing, right? But I think it's super cool if you could maybe like identify like exactly what is the flipped classroom, how is it different from the current school setup, like what's the key distinguishing factor that differentiates it from what we currently do in most schools, and what the flipped classroom is.
You know, Rohan, that if you try to think about it, when we go to a restaurant to have a food, right, a dinner or lunch or whatsoever, and but we now I know that also you became fully 100% vaxxed, and now you can go to restaurant. So I will use this example without give you the bad feeling.
Yeah.
When you go to a restaurant, everything, production, consumption, pleasure, fun, and everything will happen on place in the same time at the same time that you will be with your friend or anything else. But also, there are sometimes that you start to communicate with your friend. For example, it's a birthday party or something. You guys will do a conversation before that, and maybe create a WhatsApp group and
Yeah,
chat,
exactly.
and make some jokes. And actually, it's fun, right? Especially if you guys want to surprise the person. By the way,
Yes.
let's see. My birthday is not around. Okay, so I don't expect any surprise tonight. And then, uh, so we have the tendency to not let the whole joy happen only in the place. We try to drag it before restaurant, and then we
Mm.
have the tendency, and then you finish the night at the restaurant. You back, it's still conversation goes on,
Mm.
and in
That's right. Yeah.
Instagram, I don't know, in social media, and you guys talk about it. And this is how actually a social event form. And I don't think this is only for the modern world. It has been before and before, even maybe more. That to do that. Even if we wanted to go to the kind of summer break with families, a conversation, where to go, all these kind of things, and then at the place, and then back. And but when I'm thinking of classical education model. It never was like that. That means we have to wake up in the morning, early morning, and difficult, and
Mm.
just and then sleepy, and then go to the classroom, sit down, and just get everything, download everything there, and then finish it back, and then go home and do homework.
That's right. Exactly.
There were no any kind of, that's a preparation for that. Technically,
Yeah,
maybe
almost like a build up, right? There's no build up. There's no story. Actually, there's no story
true,
in this,
true.
right? Yeah.
Nice. Let's pick up this story. It never was some storytellers that gave us some stories of that tomorrow math class. It never was like that. Imagine, for
Yeah.
example, you get a message tomorrow you're going to do this and that. Tomorrow you're going to be the sinus and cosine and then mix them. Oh, boom, amazing. It never was like that. So you just gotta face with it, and then you get used to that. And this mindset build some sort of personality that you feel that when you go and work with the company, so the company will tell you what to do.
Mm.
So then you take it and then you go and apply. But in art, in real life, we never the situation was different. That means we wanted to have that exactly storytelling before the game, get into the concept. And so of course, if imagine if you are What if you get surprised when you go to the class and the topic is difficult for you,
Right. Exactly.
and or you can get it because everything happened in that 1 hour class. So
Mhm.
you are a loser for any reason if you can't catch the course.
Yes.
Or maybe you need a little bit of more visual elements. You need to say, hey, everybody, quiet, quiet, just pause. Teacher, pause. Let
Right.
me think. A little bit of the Zen. So you're not going to be able to do that.
Mhm.
Nobody will give you the chance to do this. So, uh, in result, this concept came to the game that if possible, we really flip the whole education or the way that we release education or conduct it in different way. We do have some preparation or major part in preparation before you go to that physical classroom, or I should say now virtual classroom, it doesn't matter, but
Mhm.
of course depends on the situation. And then before you reach the class you already got the concepts, you became familiar. And then when you go to the classroom, it's not to listen to teachers to tell you the topic and teach you. So
Mm.
change. Now in this flip classroom, especially thanks to technology, we release all the material and courses that we're going to talk about it to students maybe a week sooner. So they go through it in their own times. There's a kind of discussion board. They communicate together, and their activities, individual assignments, group assignments. So before they reach to, for example, let's say Friday morning math class, children
Mhm.
already they went through all the topics they discussed. If you don't get a topic, you communicate it. So there's no way you go to Friday math class and topic is new for you or difficult for you. You fast learner, you a slow learner, both of you do have the chance to really horn all of your skills and knowledge in the proper way for that day. And then when the day come, the day reach, that's the day that you go to restaurant. So
Mm.
then teacher can save a lot of time because as a teacher, I'm not sitting down and standing, not sitting, and
Right.
then teaching and all this kind of thing. So
Yeah.
now I divide the students. I give them a lot of debate and discussion.
Nice.
Cognitive ability, metacognitive cognition about what they learned, what they didn't learn. And children they start to talk about same topic from different angles and perspective, and teachers they engage with them and communicate. And then we finish the class. Then they go home and then they're gonna have extra assignments and activities regarding the whole things that discussed. So
Mm.
this is a very ongoing an activity. Imagine I'm so excited. Maybe I found an article in Wikipedia. I want to go and show
Yeah.
up. I found a nice video in in YouTube about prime numbers. I want to go and so this structure, this is structure that we flipped it is a flipped classroom. We do have an image for
Nice.
I found in the website. Maybe we
Oh,
can see
nice.
it. Let's see the image. Yeah, true. Look at this flipped classroom that a student prepare participate in class activities. This is the before class, and you see the bottom is the out of class and in class. So if we can say that 1/3 is in class, 2/3 is out of the class,
Mm.
and a
Nice.
student practice applying key concepts with feedback. So feedback matters. And then we go out of the class again. The students check their understanding and extend their learning. So this may be the best way that we can easily get this concept of flipped classroom.
Nice. Yeah, that's really interesting. I don't know why, but the image of like thinking about how this maps to like the idea of I feel like browsing on the internet, like like it's almost as if the current school system, at least the way I see it, is a little bit like just downloading the file, right? It's like I'm just downloading the file before like searching for anything. So it's like almost trusting that like let's say my friend sends me a link and I just download the file and that's all I have to do, right? I just come to class every day and download the file, download the file, download the file, and that's the information I have and that's what I have to use, right? And I have to remember it. And so I have this really messy downloads folder with all this stuff I've downloaded, but I don't really know where it came from or how to use it. And like that's kind of how I'm visualizing it, at least from like a computer concept. Whereas like the flipped classroom kind of encourages, okay, you search for your own information and you download what you need to download, and then basically because you know what you downloaded, you can actually use that and then maybe talk to other people, share it with other people. There's a bit more of well, let's call it interaction, right? Or interactivity between you and the information that you're getting versus just being like, oh yes, this is what I need, and just like downloading it every day from school, almost without a thought, right? Without a thought about it. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, I want to refer to what we discussed in previous video. Definitely, this flipped classroom follows those kind of um, philosophy that they are student-centric.
Mm.
Obviously it's a student
Yes.
centric, right? Because you are the one getting the freedom of processing the
Mm.
data, so you feel more the ownership. And then, and you know what, remember that we were talking about dopamine, that pleasure, the hormone, or when we
Mhm.
get an achievement, then we figured out that there are a lot of researches that they show anticipation of an event produce dopamine, and that's really nice. It make you feel real, almost when you feel good, some sort of dopamine happening around that. So I anticipate of that restaurant, so I have 1 week to enjoy, that kind of thing. So the same connection will happen between you and your courses. Anticipation of the day that we're going to go and talk about it, and topics and all these kind of things. It's very interesting. It's expand a very important moment learning into the time dimension expand. So that's what I can
Mm.
say.
That's really cool. Yeah. And it makes sense. I think it totally makes sense. So what I'm interested to also understand is like, of course, like in general, that education is always, or more so now, the problem with it is the fact that like it's very sort of one way, right? And the student-centric model kind of enforces more of a two-way interaction thing. And I guess that's really important. That's a super important part of education, is actually the interaction that you have
Yeah.
with teachers, with other students, and it encourages that. Like at the minimum of minimum, it encourages that, right? Um, Having these collaborative activities, I think, is important, right? Most parents and kids want that. They want that. The flipped classroom, how, it reinforces the discussion. I'm interested on your take on this, like how it reinforces this interactivity, and also how maybe like it can be managed, because I guess from a teacher perspective, right, just imagining now if I'm the teacher, like how does a teacher monitor all these different discussions, different groups? Some students may not participate as much as others. How can sort of the flipped classroom help to sort of bring that engagement to an entire classroom? You know what I mean?
uh, it's really interesting. I think, when you say collaborative, how flip classroom, let's say, you trigger, or let's say motivate or direct the students to do that direction of the collaborative learning, because collaborative learning is actually one of the learning methodology. It
Okay.
has its own name, I mean, separately. It's really interesting. Maybe we can talk about that one another thing. But what happening here is you can see that before and after in winning the class, there is a very very critical elements that make the flip classroom to make sense. It's not solo. It's not solo at all. You do have solo assignments, you have individual assignments, but to form the understanding itself happen through networking, through the conversation. So the discussion is there every time. It means like, because you look at what is happening. There is no anymore that master teacher that knows
Mm.
everything, and
Yeah.
I don't care. I sit down and listen, and he knows everything for me. She knows good things for me. That topic is not there anymore. So that means I'm 7 years old. From the beginning, I faced with this scenario that I received this material. I have to go through them by myself at my room, and I use my iPad or my tablet or computers to
Mm.
communicate with friends, because friends always help me to understand. I help them. From the initiation is with the students,
Mm.
and there is a teacher answer our questions, but we are the one asking. We are the one
Mm.
initiating. So from the beginning, they learn how to initiate all the processes of the learnings. Can be negotiation, can be asking questions, can be making a mistakes, or ambiguity, or all these kind of things happen. And then when we go to the classroom, we're not there again to sit down and listen.
Mm.
We're not there to sit down and listen, which is totally different in contrast with what we had before. It's again to divide into groups and communicate together. And I'm trying to not focus on group projects. That's a good things that can be in the
Mhm.
flipped classroom or other approaches. But I'm talking about the main things happening here. Heavily is depends on this need of other people. You understand that you need other people to form this collaboration, connection. So intuitively, you feel this collaboration. You feel if nobody is around, it looks like kind of only solo learning. And I have to
Mm.
point out something that, what, we are different. Some of us, but we are brilliant and we are introvert. Some of us, we are
Yes.
great speakers and great actor, actress, entrepreneur, but we are naturally introvert or extrovert. It's possible. There's a wrong
Right.
mindset that introvert typically is the guy which is shy or closed. No, it's not like that. Being introvert is a desire that when you want to do something, what comes first to your mind? Other people to come and help, or no, you do it if you need, you choose other people. There are a lot of angles and dimensions through this one. When it
For
comes to
sure.
such a
Yeah.
kind of model, we have to understand that we should come up with something that support all the kind of personalities as much as possible. Not the all exactly, but as much as possible. And in the flipped classroom, it's really nice because even if I am a person not much comfortable with engaging the team and group, again, I have the benefit of sitting down in front of my computer, and it's much, much easier. And I feel
Mm.
less social anxiety and stress because I can ask questions, I can communicate directly, I can send a private message. Typically introvert people, they may do this. Extrovert people, right away, they go to the group and write a message and communicate and say hi to
Yeah.
everybody. So engage everyone. But introvert, they like to have their own way. So time allows them to form collaborative learning in their very own way.
Mm.
So this is how I want to point out these two personality in general, that how it works.
That's true. That's a really interesting point. The fact that like there's actually sort of a well, let's call it two mechanisms at play versus like when it's more like the teacher just yammering on. You're basically relying on everything is relying on the teacher, right? And if the teacher
True,
doesn't do a
true.
good job or the student cannot absorb, like it's finished, right? But at least in this way, you give actually two options for students. One is okay if you're more quiet, okay, go and learn yourself, and even if you don't participate so much in discussions because maybe you're shy or something, you still have the ability to go and initiate that like that learning for yourself. And then if you are the more extroverted type, then you benefit from having those discussions. So in a way, it kind of eliminates the risk of a bad teacher, which is quite cool, right? So you have a way of eliminating, in some sense, like
True,
the
true.
yeah, right, a bad teacher, which we know, of course, there are some, unfortunately.
You know what? You can say that it decentralized. It's a decentralized
Mm,
approach. So it doesn't let centralize into one person. When there's only teacher, what do you mean by collaborative? If teacher give us a team project, we have the chance of collaboration.
mhm.
Or naturally we are grown up in a family to without that go and ask help from friend, but not a school
Yeah.
system, not the system put you in the position to do that. You got what I mean? So in this flipped classroom, the approach is in this way. That means you wake up and you see the world looks like blue color.
Mm,
Everything is blue. Then
right.
they don't to be able to see the blue color won't be your concern anymore because the world became blue. So the world
Yes.
became collaborative. So it's not anymore how we can increase collaborative ability in children. It is like that. When we have this concern, that means we failed. This is
Yeah. From the start, we failed.
failed. So why we are thinking how we can? So what was the purpose of education?
That's a really good point. I'm also interested because you talked about this idea of initiation, right? Of having the student initiate the conversation, initiate the learning. I think it's a very important point because it's the spark, right? It's the spark that
Mm,
sometimes when people have that, they you don't even need to tell them anything. They're on autopilot. They can figure out a lot of things by themselves. But I'm interested also because we at Cato Code also we deal with kids, young ages, some which are much older. I'm interested how effective, because I'm thinking back to like my time, and of course I'm in a product of the traditional school system mostly, so I know there's some residual effects of that.
mm.
But I can remember being like as a younger kid, my interest was mostly, let's say, in random casual things. It was football or stuff like that. I didn't have, for example, maybe many teachers that inspired or that ignited that conversation. And I'm wondering, is that because of those teachers or because I was really not even that interested in that stuff at that age? When you're really young, you kind of don't even know like what's available or what's going on. Maybe you have a little bit of scientific curiosity, but it's not maybe something you can communicate or sort of I think when I was a kid in primary school, the internet wasn't even really a thing that so much, right? So it was maybe a different time as well. But I'm interested in your take, like, because I can imagine the flipped classroom working really well with university students. I can totally see that being like, it's perfect, right? Flipped classroom, university students, they're in it because they know they have to learn something for their job or their future. But I'm trying to think of like kids who are like, 5, 6, 7 years old, and I'm thinking like, would they do that? Would they really initiate those kind of learning and discussion by themselves with maybe just the internet at their disposal?
The first the thing came to my mind at the when you finished your question was this:
Yeah.
maybe we should create a topic for our talk about how much we are and in what scale we are underestimating children.
Mm.
We should talk about this. We should understand that I think we need to revise in 2021 our understanding from children abilities. This is very important topic because if we don't reach to an agreement that a child can, for example, hold 100 kilogram, then
Right.
entire of our planning and strategizing and everything is based on that assumption that how come a child can hold 100 kilogram. Imagine for some
Exactly.
reason children can hold 100 kilogram. So you know what's going to happen. Everything will be different.
For
Okay,
sure. Yeah.
so we need to understand this. We should come up with some sort of clear understanding of
Mm.
is anything changed recently, or biologically, or genetically, or information, or we were not utilizing the capability and capacity that we
Mm.
could have as a human, or is it like the education model after maybe in 20th century, maybe 1980 about if it's slowing
Mhm.
down, maybe you know what I'm trying to say,
I
maybe
do.
the last
Yeah.
20 years was the issue. And
Exactly. Exactly.
we should
Yes.
sit down and say that I we could do this. You know that maybe we should talk about what we lost when we were children.
Yeah.
So
You're right.
that's one thing we
Exactly.
should talk about it in general. In general, but let me back now to the main question. You know what? When we talk, for example, about a flipped classroom, let's see what sort of a skills come to mind. That means students they should be able to uh, uh, sit down, look at the computers, communicate with digital stuffs, and submit tasks and update informations and send questions, asking, chattings, answering questions. You know, using with the mouse, keyboards, and all devices and kind of things, an iPad and draw things. And also, we have to get. They have to be able to get engaged into the environment, a nice environment, nice platform. It's very important. Platform is very important. The design, everything is very important. And then when they come to the classroom, so we don't have any concept because it looks like before classroom. And then when they
Mhm.
back, so they have to do some activities toward that one. So look at all these kind of skills. And to me, to my understanding, to my experience, and also there are statistics now around the world and how fast this flipped classroom is growing, and this is the future of I think school.
Mm.
Is there's no any doubt about it that kids can do that. Look at how children from early ages, 3, 4 years old, they get engaged to computer games, and not just the
Exactly. Yeah.
game itself. Something very important, they communicate through the game. I have
Mm.
seen almost any 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old play Minecraft.
Yeah.
They or Roblox. They communicate. They share knowledge. They share skills. They build things together.
Sure.
They're so good into this. That means they. How come we don't have such a kind of a doubt that if my child can play collaborative games, they are playing.
Mm.
They're playing, and parent they have considered my child play too much game, but they never have a concept that if my child can play game or not. And not only they play game, they do a lot of calculation, the scoreboard, leaderboard, badges. You know what? For
That's true.
example, when you're
Yeah.
talking about, for example, when you're talking about a collaborative, you know, when achieving a common goal is one of the things that we want in collaborative learning. So now they team up in a game and they want to achieve the winning the game or that clan or that kind of things. Or for example, sharing discoveries and negotiation. They do all the time within those games and stuff. And children, even within the traditional classroom, that system does not focus on this, but they do this by themselves. They
Mm.
now we're saying that if we build a platform that guide them through this way, many kids that are watching YouTube actually is increasing. Or
Yeah.
to Twitch, look at another example. Or Instagram, they know it very well, very well. You know what? It was a little bit concerned about early ages that we talk about it later, but for middle class and secondary school and high school, not at all, not a problem. And now for uh, elementary school also increased rapidly, and there are many
Mhm.
tools and gadgets, and parent also engage, parent always engage, and this
Yeah.
time they have better time to engage rather than just send and get this back, and teachers they have more time because teachers are not teaching, they become more active within the platform and let
Mm.
children do that. So the point is this: they go to their physical classroom or virtual classroom, depends on the type of the school and the system, but there are before and after. So this is what I feel, Rohan, about this.
Nice. Yeah. I think it makes sense. It's definitely there is the question about really early ages, but you're right. I think for kids who are at least in that age where they can play games, and we see that as proof, right? Like there shouldn't really be so much worry about it, because it makes sense if they can engage in something that they are interested in, then there's no reason why they can't use those tools for any
Mm.
other topic, right? I mean, we know it from games, because games are, traditionally more exciting, fun. They have that gamification element, of course. And it's, I guess, just about making everything now, molded in that same way like a game, and then it should be easily uh, well, it should be easy for students to engage with any kind of thing like that, right? Well, regardless of the topic. So that's
It's
really
very
cool.
about
Nice.
tools. It's very
Yeah.
about the tools, platform.
Hmm.
I don't, concept doesn't have any issue. Concept has been around.
Hmm.
Concept, when you wanted to go and play with your cousin weekends, you were doing flipped classroom when you were a child, talking,
Yeah.
communicating what I'm gonna do, what we're gonna do, and then when we no nobody, parents engage to your children games. You let them play. We were playing. Flip classroom give us more chance of playing, but with a nice
Mhm.
platform. Definitely ugly platform is not gonna work. Everyone will get bored, even adult.
Yeah.
But children, they have no issue. I think maybe one of the surprise of the new century is we finally we have a, a, it's really funny. The most advanced aspect of today technology, which is computer science, is the most convenience and familiar for the earliest ages.
Mhm.
That's a really interesting paradox.
Yeah.
Before was not like that. Advanced technology for engineer and adult, but now
Yeah.
advanced technology is available in hand of children in a nice way, and better than their parents. This happening first. I think this is the first time. I don't think
Probably. Yeah.
in hunter gathering or hunting economy, children they're better with the bow and stone and hunting, or
Exactly.
agriculture economy, 4 or 5 years old was better than dad in harvesting the field. It never was like that.
Yeah,
Now,
that's
now
true.
it's like that. Now it's very like that. Now you see CEOs and CTOs of classical businesses. They join to workshops to digitalize themselves, to transform digitally while
Yeah.
they're already born.
We're catching up with the kids.
It's really
I
important.
totally.
It's very important. With this takeaway here is, I guess, understand that we're living in a kind of economy that the main engine, the most important thing, is well available for children. You, I, 4 year olds, and a Googler and best software developer in the world, we have access to internet in the same level.
That's true. That's really, really true. What do you think? Like, so I guess, like parents would, in general, be looking forward, especially with the whole COVID situation that's happened, lots of virtual learning. There's a big camp that are like, they're okay maybe with the fact that, or they prefer it because of the safety. There are many parents who are eager to send their kids back. They feel like things are safe now and it's okay. I'm interested for the parents that are looking forward to send their kids back to a physical classroom.
Mhm.
Um, like, can the flipped classroom be applied sort of almost immediately by teachers, right? So imagine a teacher who's watching this right now. Do you think it's like there's need of a systemic change, which of course I think it's really important. But can teachers just apply this, and can they sort of complement the current learning of kids in the classrooms, like right now, with something like this technique?
So, you basically you're asking me what is the scale or degree of the change that they have to apply to current school to make them able to welcome this approach. That's the question.
Yeah, maybe what's the easiest sort of way to start doing it. Yeah, rather than waiting for like a giant like
Okay.
systemic change, which would obviously take a lot of time.
Okay, you know what I'm telling you, that creativity, it's it's a key to do such a kind of thing. For example, let's say if I'm a school principal, this should happen at the school principal level mindset. He or
Hmm.
she should think this is the solution, and then what I'm gonna do, I look at what are available tools. If I can use, maybe sit down with all of my teachers and communicate. There's a website, flippedclassroom.org. It's this is the main resource for this around the world. They produce a lot of gadgets, tools, approaches, softwares, techniques. They have articles, they have YouTube videos to teach and give tips to trainers. to know how apply this, and even they have a kind of walking through protocol how to do that. And here I can say that by easily using Google Classroom, you can set up a little bit of the flipped classroom
Mm.
just by
Nice.
sending material at the very first step. Sending material and creating a kind of discussion group, the children plan, and they come to the classroom. You don't teach, let them debate and discuss. They go home and you give them the activities. So technically, you are stepping into the flipped classroom. And remember that these kind of methodologies, they get better and better. That means it's a progress. You don't
Mm.
expect that you do it exact science. It's not like exact science. There are social science. They need to engage in trial and error, and
Mm.
every school do a little bit of adjustment based on the culture and children abilities and all this kind of stuff. And again, at the end of the day, there are kids that they need a little bit of more one-to-one help or kind of engage, so they will do it. And soon they bring them to this direction, and those kids also they engage. So very simple. A Google Classroom, free, available, can be down. But now there are LMS, learning management systems, software companies release and produce many kind of approaches that they can apply for their school, and then let children create an account, and parents, teachers, they have dashboard, they release their contents. The students, they get notifications when they do the activities. Teachers, they get notifications, they chat and communicate together. So that's the next level. Maybe for one school want to start slowly, maybe that's the best way. Maybe one school don't want to really invest, then definitely they have to get some help and consultant to come and sit down and then apply. This is definitely important. But I have to say that if a school producing a very traditional approach, there are a lot of things should change. But it's not a
Mhm.
scary change. It's not like kind of we have to flip the whole school.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's actually, I think, thanks to COVID. This is one thing. Thanks to COVID, changes coming to school system. It make it very possible and available, this sort of changes, and it's getting every day more available. That means this mindset, we got this experience of children to be a little bit far from teacher and then go and they see the teacher. So now we can have a
Mhm.
hybrid. Even some
Yeah.
companies now they say hybrid. You go and work 1 day or 2 days in this office and then work from home. In some offices they say no, always work from home. So you see that even the workforce environment is getting flipped.
Yeah.
The school
Exactly.
system should produce such a kind of stuff, right? Team members.
Mhm.
It's because the working environment is changing.
Exactly. Yeah. I can imagine. I can imagine already that like there is an ease actually of doing the flipped classroom method virtually, and that's I think one of the reasons why COVID has weird silver lining kind of way helped with this, right? Because I'm imagining like with traditional schools, kids come to the class and then okay, the teacher has to spend X amount of time with them, and it's there. They have to share whatever knowledge they have. Whereas virtually now, the way things are being conducted, like kids have these sort of sessions, and they can kind of manage that more dynamically versus a class where everyone has to sort of sit in a classroom. So that's really cool, right? Because now it's like, okay, you can jump into a session like a Zoom call with a teacher. Teacher says, hey guys, check out, learn about this or learn about this. And then everyone spends an hour, they go, they do their own research because they're already on a computer, right? Versus where in school, they don't have maybe a computer or they don't have access, or not everyone can have a computer. So this idea of actually sort of remote virtual learning has actually, I think, an advantage for like in a virtual setting versus a physical setting. Like I think it's easier to be applied in a sense, right?
And you just, when you said that in a video call, I like to point out that, I told this many times, that just going to Zoom doesn't mean we revolutionize the education system.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
it's, for example, again, there is a math class on Friday and the students sit down in front of the computer. Nothing changed.
Yeah.
So we should make this very clear that learning is happening, is initiation is by student get
Mm.
the slides, materials, books, videos, they search. And so good, because if I'm a teacher and I want to teach prime number, for example, but there are a lot of YouTube channels, why not I utilize them? Why just I'm in charge to teach everything? And these kids, they love it more because they're gonna find YouTube channels about the prime numbers, and they love it. Watch YouTubes in their own way. Maybe they watch their games in Twitch and they go and watch their prime numbers in Numberphilia, and then they watch in another challenge, and then they come, and then finally Friday they are well ready. And even you see that this is same thing happening in the workforce area. Look at yourself. When we want to have a meeting about a topic, it's so good that if they gave us the topic sooner, so we
Mhm.
can go through it, we can feel confidence. When it's a meeting, we can talk, we can understand. That's the most important thing. Because when we face with a new topic, problem is a lot of jargon, a lot of new terms, a lot of this and that. Oh my god, I don't understand any of it. and
Yeah.
and then you full anxiety because everything is new. And if you
Mhm.
miss one point of the class, maybe for any reason, you're gonna, especially if the class is really condensed. So but in this way, you go through everything, and whatever you hear in the class is not something new. You just got the, you know it.
Yeah, and you can do it at your own pace, right? Like that's the real advantage with the flipped classroom, rather than having to just absorb it at whatever pace the teacher sets as the general standard of, information absorption rate or something like that, right?
extremely I
Nice.
extremely I believe that always there is an alignment between workforce culture and school culture.
Mhm,
These two change in, these two move along together. Suddenly some
mhm,
changes happen, and one of them change and the other one is like that, and then eventually they reach to another point together. So
mhm,
changing workforces has started because of technology, because of the work, because of the Coursera, Udemy, all these kind of things. Upskilling, reskilling, people go and learn. It's not anymore just the university or that. So these changes will force back the school system to raise generation from the age 3, 4 to be ready for that workforce environment and freelancing economy. Definitely, I
mhm,
believe that we are experiencing some sort of changes, a chaos moment. But this should form, this should back again and get friendship should happen between what we expect in the workforce area environment and what we want in the school system. What we have heavily impacted by industrialized revolution. So
mhm.
this industrialized mindset, assembly line classroom has been around for quite a long time, and it shouldn't be there definitely.
Mhm. Yeah, makes total sense. We talked a little bit just now earlier about the like sort of adoption, like how can teachers, schools, headmasters, adopt this as a hybrid method or even completely as a new method, right? Um, like imagine, I'm just trying to imagine that conversation because of course we have quite an interesting, maybe a varied audience, some students, some parents, some teachers, some headmasters, even who knows, educators. For people who want to initiate that conversation with the decision makers, right? I guess it's important for them to know like how to sell that. And I know we've been talking quite a bit about like all these different reasons why flipped classroom is good. But if you had to sort of maybe pitch the three most important, let's say, skills that students will sort of get or benefit out of, getting this or utilizing this flipped classroom, what would you say those let's say top three skills are that students are gonna get, as a benefit? Is this something as a sort of an easy way to sell this method to the people who make decisions about whether it's going to get adopted or not?
Okay. You know what? One of the very important thing about flipped classroom is it's a kind of very pedagogical approach, uh, which the main elements of teaching is reversed, is rechanged, we flipped it. It's a pedagogical. So number one is pedagogical benefits will be increased in the students. You can name many of it. Because the most important thing is student centric. So that's my number one. Being this student centric produce a better pedagogical experience, no doubt, no doubt at all. And number two, as you mentioned before, dependency to teacher will reduce. Not, you know what? That's very important. We make it clear. Not teacher is not important. It's not centralized on teacher. It's
Mm,
decentralized. Now it's a teamwork, even between teacher and a student. So meaning of the collaborative learning, which is best outcome, is not only between a student and teacher, all together. So we learn together. Even
mhm,
teacher really, literally teacher learn something because it's cool because kids search over the internet. I have 30 students, they search for me and they come to my class and I listen to them. And I know what they search. I never be able to do such kind of thing by myself. So all of my students, they're gonna do that. So that's again another interesting thing that we never ever had, and
mhm,
everything was on teacher definitely. And the other thing is, let's a little bit less focus on team and in group. Individualism also will improve really in a fantastic way. I think metacognitive abilities
mhm.
that are in the game because it's we will have a kind of talk for about metacognition and those 7 stages, and
Yeah.
then later we can refer back to those stages and see that how metacognition ability will engage because Rohan, one of the nice way that you know something or not, it's when you talk with your friends.
Yep.
It's very clear, right? For example,
Yes.
let's say I think I know a lot about Lord of the Ring, or you think you know a lot, and then you come and talk to me, and then after that you know nothing. So this only happen when you collaborate with me, when you talk with me, and I talk with you.
Yeah.
Then I have a better understanding of where is my level. This is metacognitive ability. That means I know where
Nice.
is my level, and this can happen in a nice conversation, and always happens. So gradually, every single individual in that society grow in a nice way,
Mhm.
and student they have the chance to focus more on their interest. That means,
Like,
for example, every one of
mhm.
us learn geometry, every one of us learn triangle, but when we search over the internet we look at triangle in different way. Maybe you are more interested in geology and bring triangle and that concept. Maybe I'm interested in art and Picasso and all those kind of things, and
Mhm.
I bring triangle and that. Maybe I'm purely I love the math itself and nothing else, so I try to
Mm.
look at how these three lines do some sort of intersection that they form a shape. We call it triangle, and there are a lot of things. So these are these three things that I try to explain. There
Nice.
are some common things that I can see, important things that will definitely happen in flipped classroom.
Nice. That's really cool. I think, yeah. So like, I think the first one sort of like, I guess you could call it like the initiation, or maybe a sort of critical thinking, right? Thinking
True.
about what it
Agree.
is you're gonna kind of give. Then there's the collaborative part, right? So the collaboration being maybe the second point. Just the fact that people will communicate more, and then when you talked about like the individualism, to me that sounds like, retelling the story. So like almost like presentation skills, right? The ability of you to like actually deliver a message will also improve. So it's
True.
it's sort of critical thinking, collaboration, and then presentation skills. I guess these are three really, really important aspects that, I mean, most teachers, educators, they understand. Oh, these are good things to have, and the flipped classroom clearly will help with at least those three things, if not more things, right? So that's
True.
really cool.
It's happened. I mean, these are the three things comes to my mind. There are many more concepts that can be engaged and can be discussed here. But definitely, I think definitely one thing for sure: learning will be more fun.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. It
Definitely,
already sounds so much more fun just by
definitely.
people talking like together more. It sounds so much more fun.
So good, so good, so good. It's really good.
Like I'm seeing it now and I'm thinking like, it's like, is every conversation I've had with my friends technically a flipped classroom? Because when you talk with friends, you're kind of always learning about them. You're learning something. You're figuring something out together. You're discussing something, and there's an element of like, yeah, I did my own research. I have these experiences in my life, and I come and I talk about it with my friends. It's almost as if life is a flipped classroom, normal
Oh,
life, right?
true, true. Even
Yeah.
if you back to ancient Greek philosophers, you look at those very, very interesting intellectual people. You look at, for example, Epicure. You look at Democritus. You look at Plato. You look at Socrates. You look at Aristotle. Heavily, all their learning was based on debate and discussion.
Mhm.
It was entire of learning model was like that. That means they were saying this, they wanted to do that, and even in the many philosophers and educators in history, they keep talking about the necessity of this conversation. Because one thing that I don't see in traditional classroom, or somehow we missed it, we
Yeah.
don't give a time for thinking. We don't learn to think.
Mm.
Thinking isn't a skill, and children, they grown up, even they get the job, but they don't know how to think. And
It's
they
true.
don't, and thinking happen through debate, arguments, challenges, critical thinking. I have to come up with the counter arguments, you have to come up with another counter arguments, again my counter arguments. That's what philosophers do. So every one of us should be a little bit philosopher. And maybe now this came to my mind: flipped classroom, flipped is good to be
Yeah.
philosopher.
I was
So
just gonna say, I feel like that's the first thing I want to debate about after this. Is everyone is like, let's change flipped classroom to classroom, because flipped classroom is the real classroom, and traditional classroom is actually maybe the flipped classroom,
True,
or the
true.
anti classroom.
Yeah, it makes sense. It gives us that elements of being a philosopher.
Totally,
You can
totally.
be a
Do you
you can
know? uh,
you can be an electrical engineer and philosopher in your field. That's a two different things.
Okay, that totally makes sense. Do you think, or do you know of any organizations, companies, well, maybe not companies, schools, around the world that have already adopted this or are trying to adopt this a little bit more? Maybe countries. I guess there's some forward-thinking countries when it comes to education. We've heard of course, like places like Finland and stuff like that. Are they adopting this? Is this something that's people are actually starting to use more now because of the issues that we know about in education in the world today?
Uh, Technically, this concept somehow started in 2007 in a few school in the United States. One of them was the Colorado school, and then and few more. But it became really something interesting, and I do have one statistic to share from flipped flipped learning sorry fliplearning.org, and this report released by 2016. Okay, at that time around 40 percentage of middle school and 38 percentage of middle school and 40 percentage of schools were implementing flipped classroom model. And that
Wow.
time elementary school were increasingly fast. At that time was around 17 percentage. I don't
Oh,
have the
wow.
percentage accurately at the moment, but I'm pretty sure that it's increased a lot, especially after the COVID in many other places. So how the question is how well, how deep one
Mm.
school became flipped classroom. But majority of these schools are trying and starting to get this sense of sharing content before and let the students to collaborate and then come. But there are differences in the way that they apply it and properly they apply it, and so it's a kind of ongoing, and I'm pretty sure that less than 10 years this is going to be a kind of standard,
Wow.
especially after this COVID.
Nice.
Any tech company will be in the game to build fantastic softwares for these schools. That's a great market actually, to build
Mhm.
softwares to manage this flipped classroom for school system that purely turn into a kind of nice and well established flipped classroom. It's this is definitely, this is something that we have to see. And if we are a parent, if you are a parent, if anyone, and you send your kid to somewhere in a school, and then you have to really be smart into this. You really have to be careful. You have to think, ask these questions rather
Yeah.
than certification, degree, and A plus, and forget about these things. Please forget about these things. These are just nobody care about them anymore. 67%
Yeah.
of Microsoft staff, they don't have any kind of proper degree. Please forget about this. Please. Okay, so I emphasize. To try to ask these questions, good questions. How much is collaborative learning? How much is gamification in that school? How much is project-based learning? How much is this flipped classroom? How much my child have time to read before go to the classroom? That's important. How much your teacher do not intervene to my child learning? It's
Yeah.
important. There is a nice research. Any intervention reduce the amount of knowledge that a student can learn by themselves.
Wow.
Any
That's
intervention.
interesting.
When you intervene, there is a cost. When you intervene,
Mm.
the cost is child is not learning by himself or herself. So
Right.
now there are even algorithms in
Wow.
advanced machine learning system and learning management system to decide to give a hint to teacher, should I intervene or not?
Oh,
because
that's wow. That's
because
awesome.
because if child is getting anxiety, if I don't intervene, there's another damage. I know, but the point is, that algorithm works like that. Calculate the cost of you intervene to child learning procedure. So the approach is like that. How much it gonna cost? If that's not too much, okay, go and intervene.
Wow, that's so cool. That's super cool, right? Like it supports the whole. I mean, that's it really aligns with, of course, what we're doing at Kiddo Code, but
True.
even also the larger idea of just generally adopting computational tools to assist in the education delivery mechanism, or the rebuilding of education, in order to assist that, because that's so powerful, right? I mean, if you have such tools to assist you in that, I mean, as a teacher, it gives you the room and the flexibility now to do other things instead of focus on, I don't know, just delivering information. Because now you know when to get involved, when to say what to say, and it's a sort of like some really high power, like analytics, right? It's kind of like analytics and data science all in one, giving you really
True.
like good insight to actually like help you do stuff in your job. It's really
Data
cool.
should come. Data should come to learning. True. You're right. You're right. It's so embarrassing if today teachers they don't have analytical dashboard front of their eyes. When
Mm.
they are teaching, there are algorithms help them to know which child behind. or each child has questions, which child is getting the points. There are a lot of nice tools, not a lot of nice tools they have to use, and I think teachers they love it. That's good because teachers became tired. If this is not gonna work, that means I just teach same thing again and again. So
That's
true,
awesome.
true,
Yeah.
true. Let's flip the game.
Yeah. So let us know in the comments. What do you think? Should we flip the classroom to a flipped classroom?
Woo.
Nice. Awesome. That's great. Nice. I really learned a lot. That was a really good discussion. And I think it gave me a lot of clarity also on what like the value that flipped classroom brings. Obviously, I had a good understanding, a little bit of an understanding before, but now after this discussion, it makes sense why even at the easiest barrier of entry, lowest barrier of entry, like teachers should start utilizing some sort of flipped classroom model in their lessons.
True. It's when you get familiar with it, you say, okay, it's supposed to be like this.
Yeah,
It's supposed
exactly.
to be like that. Who knew it was like that? Why I never ever remembered that when I went into school, high school, nobody gave me a little bit sooner. The whole topics. You know what? So I remember some of us, including myself, I had this habit in summer to read most of major book before I go to the next level,
Ah,
next year. For example, if I went to year 7 in summer, I read all the year 8 book by myself. For example,
wow,
so I
nice.
read especially mathematics. But I should not all of
Hmm.
it, math and physics mostly. And then I read before, and but it turned me to be sometimes a pain for the teacher because I wanted to give the answer or that kind of things. So that children they like it. But was very helpful because I could do that. And then my dad also he had a good knowledge in mathematics, so I could negotiate, ask him a little bit question, that kind of thing. So it was very little experience, but not system exposed that to me. It would just happen
Hmm.
randomly. So
Yeah, it's an anomaly, as you said before, right in the past.
okay, so any other thing, or we are done?
I think we're good. Yeah, I got all the clarity on I need on that. I hope people who are watching also got something out of it. You understand the flipped classroom better. And if you're an educator out there, hey, try it out. Right, this could be a really cool
True,
tool
true.
to change the classroom back to the way it probably was supposed to be.
Yes, and share with us. Share with us if you are doing this now in your classroom. We'd like to invite you to have conversation together to know how is the experience and what you do. That would be very good. Even there are some schools in this area that they do such a things. I really like to know that. We may talk and understand, help each other.
Awesome,
Okay,
awesome.
that's all. Thank you, Rohan. That was a good talk, and thank you, beautiful people. So stay tuned with another talk on education and technology.